What's up, sports fans? This is the Lucas Ross Sports Channel, and it's time to officially give you my reaction to yesterday's top 25 college football playoff rankings for week number 14, also known as Conference Championship Weekend of the 2023 college football season. So these rankings just came out last night. I'm going to give you a quick reaction here and give you my thoughts about these playoff rankings. I'm going to give you my thoughts and my reaction to them, and obviously, what I thought about them and what I really think about what the committee did here. So, and I've been saying this for the last few weeks, ever since these first playoff rankings came out. There's some areas where we're going to disagree on, and there's some areas where I am going to agree on. But like I said, did the committee get it right or did the committee get it wrong? Like I said, there are some areas where I don't agree with the committee, but then there's some areas where I do agree with the committee. So again, we're going to give you my reaction here, give you a quick reaction to these playoff rankings. So let's get right into it here with my reaction to the top 25 college football playoff rankings. Again, as we head into week 14, also known as Conference Championship Weekend of the 2023 college football season. So we'll start from the top and work our way to the bottom. We'll start with the top 5 here. So a little bit of a change here to the top 5. You got Georgia at number 1, obviously, and then number 2, Michigan. Obviously, Michigan with that win over Ohio State, they definitely deserve to be at number 2 after that win. And then Washington at number 3, then Florida State at number 4. So you got your 4 undefeated teams here, all ranked in the top 4. But out of nowhere, Oregon comes in here at number 5. So a lot to talk about this. Ohio State gets penalized 1 spot after losing just by 6 points to a pretty good Michigan team. Florida State was here at number 5 last week, so I don't know why the committee would penalize them outside the top 5 for this loss. Ohio State's 11-1. They do have 1 good loss, like I said, to Michigan. But when you look at the resume between Oregon and Ohio State has a better resume than Oregon. I know Oregon's been playing some really solid football the last few weeks, and I've been saying that as well for the last few weeks. I know Oregon's been playing well, but Ohio State has a better resume when it comes to rankings. I'm pretty much, I'm basing, if I was going to do rankings here, I would definitely base it off of resumes and everything, and I think Ohio State definitely deserves to still be at number 5. These are not my playoff rankings. These are the real rankings from last night. I know I did rank Oregon ahead of Ohio State in my top 25, but that's just a regular top 25. It's not like it's a real playoff top 25 and everything. It's just because I've been impressed with Oregon the last few weeks. But again, when you look at the resume here between these two teams, again, Ohio State has a win over a top 10 Penn State team, which we'll talk about in just a second. And then, they also have that win over Notre Dame still in week number 4. So, I don't know why the committee put, Oregon ahead of Ohio State there just because they lost to Michigan this weekend. I don't think they should have been penalized even though they were ranked number 3 and, or actually number 2 last week. So they dropped them 3 spots after that loss. That just doesn't make any sense there what the committee did. But it is what it is. I'm not going to make an argument here for the committee. Again, the top 5 here is Georgia and Michigan. No surprise there. Both of those teams are the 2 most dangerous teams in the country. And then Washington here at number 3 got the Pac-12 championship this weekend, and then Florida State's got the ACC championship. All 5 of these teams are playing for a conference championship this weekend. Again, Georgia will play Alabama, Michigan plays Iowa, Washington will play Oregon, of course. So we're going to get a top 5 Pac-12 championship game, and then Florida State will play Louisville, which we'll talk about in just a second. So these are the top 5 teams here heading into Week 14/Conference Championship Weekend. And again, I don't really agree with Oregon being ahead of Ohio State here. I just think Ohio State definitely should have not been penalized here after that loss to Michigan. All right, 6 through 10 now. We got Ohio State, obviously, just talked about them at number 6. Texas at number 7. Alabama at number 8. Missouri at number 9. And then Penn State at number 10. So Penn State and Missouri both stay the same. I think we're going to likely get it like a Missouri versus Penn State New Year's 6 bowl matchup. That's a matchup I would love to see here. I think both of these teams are pretty even. Not just in the offensive side of the football, but I think both defenses are pretty even as well. Penn State obviously has 2 good losses. You look at their losses to Ohio State and Michigan. Those are 2 good losses, so I think that's enough for them to make them into a top 10 team as well. Missouri at number 9, they also have 2 good losses. The losses, of course, come, to Georgia And I think the other loss comes to LSU. Yeah, LSU is another loss. That's another good loss for them. So Missouri, I'm fine where they're at. They were at number 9 last week, so they still remain here at number 9. Penn State jumped to number 10 because Louisville lost this weekend. And then Alabama at number 8, they still remain here at number 8. They've been here since the first playoff rankings. They're sitting there at 11-1. And then Texas at number 7. And again, I've been saying this for the last few weeks. Alabama is not going to jump Texas just because of the head-to-head. I mean, that's just not going to happen because Alabama, lost to Texas in the head-to-head matchup and everything. So Texas, again, still remains ahead of Alabama because of the head-to-head in the regular season. And then Ohio State here at number 6, like I mentioned it, Ohio State definitely should have not been penalized 3 spots, or maybe it was 4 spots for that loss to Michigan. And again, they only lost by 6 in that game. And again, their resume is just so much better than Oregon's. Oregon has a really good loss to a really good top 5 team in Washington. But again, it's all about wins on the resume as well. Ohio State has a better resume than Oregon. Like I said, they have a couple wins. They have a win against Notre Dame, who's ranked inside the top 20. And then you got, of course, the win of against Penn State in the regular season, who's ranked here at number 10. So I don't know why the committee put Ohio State here at number 6 instead of number 5. So that just doesn't make any sense. But here from 6 through 10, again, not a ton of changes here from 6 through 10 except for 2 teams. Penn State and Ohio State here are 2 Big Ten teams that were not here last week. So Ohio State at number 6, Texas at number 7, Alabama at number 8, and then Missouri at number 9, and then number 10 is Penn State. And I didn't think we have a lot of undefeated teams by this point as we head into Week 14 of Conference Championship Weekend either. There's just going to be a lot of chaos once we get into Conference Championship Weekend, because what if Washington loses their Conference Championship, and what if Florida State loses? And also, what if Georgia loses as well? That's going to be just a lot of chaos. Who would get in there? Does Georgia remain in the playoff top 4 teams, or do they jump out into the number 5 range? We don't really know what it's going to look like yet, but there's going to be just a lot of chaos. And I feel like this is going to be the hardest the hardest playoff. Top 4 teams. This is probably going to be the hardest, prediction here, because also the committee is going to have a hard time with some of these teams. And, I didn't think we would have 4 undefeated teams at the end of the year. So, again, it's going to be very tough for the committee to figure out who they're going to put in, based off of resumes and based off of those conference championship games coming up this weekend. But these are the rankings here from 6 through 10. Let's now go 11 through 15. So at number 11, they got Ole Miss. Number 12 is Oklahoma. LSU at number 13. Louisville drops 4 spots after the loss to Kentucky. Kentucky's a pretty average team, so the committee did not penalize Louisville for that loss. I don't think Louisville should have been penalized for that loss. It's really good for them. I don't think it's a bad loss for them. Again, it's to a pretty average 7-5 Kentucky team, but I'm really glad they didn't get penalized, at least out of the top 15, so I think the committee got it right there. And then Arizona at number 15, this team is red hot. They definitely deserve to be ranked in the top 15. Not much to talk about them, but they definitely deserve to be ranked at number 15. Ole Miss and Oklahoma both here at 11 and 12. Ole Miss has a couple of good losses to some of the top teams in the SEC in Alabama and Georgia. And then Oklahoma, they have one bad loss. If you count that, Kansas game, that's a bad loss for them. But they do have another loss to Texas, so that's their other good loss. But I think one thing I don't really agree with here is that LSU is ahead of Louisville here, because when you look at it, Louisville has a better resume than LSU. LSU has 3 good losses, to Ole Miss. They also have a good loss, as well to, Alabama. And then, of course, another loss comes to another SEC team. Or actually Florida State. That's their other loss. So they have 2 losses in the SEC and then 1 in the non-conference. Or maybe LSU should be ahead of, Louisville, just because both of these teams have one top 25 win. LSU has a win over a top 10 team in Missouri, and then Louisville has a win over a top 20 team in Notre Dame. So I think that kind of makes sense there. Maybe I kind of overreacted there. I didn't think I forgot LSU had that win, of course, over Missouri. So Louisville and LSU here. I don't really disagree here from 11 through 15. I think all the teams are fine where they're at here from 11 through 15. So, again, number 11, Ole Miss. Number 12, Oklahoma. LSU at number 13, and then Louisville at number 14, and then Arizona at number 15. So I think this is pretty much, the most accurate rankings here from this section at 11 through 15. Let's now go into the 16 through 20 rankings. So Iowa at number 16, I keep saying that I don't agree with Iowa being here in the top 20, but it is what it is. They're sitting there at 10-2. I think the committee is going to really, just give them credit for that record of theirs. And, their 2 losses, of course, to a bad Minnesota team, and then, they got 1 good loss to a really good Penn State team, so I guess the committee didn't penalize them for that loss, even though they got shut out in that game, didn't score any points in that one. Notre Dame, they're kind of sitting there in the middle of the pack. They're here at number 17. There are 3 good losses there are 3 good losses for this Notre Dame team on their 9-3 record. They do have a really good loss to Ohio State. They also have really good losses to Clemson and also Louisville. I know Clemson seems like it's not a really good loss for them, but Clemson's ranked inside the top 25, so I think that's a really good loss now for Notre Dame because Clemson wasn't good. Clemson wasn't really good enough, but then they start turning out to be really good now. So that's a really good loss for this Notre Dame team. Oklahoma State, I'm fine where they're at number 18. They're sitting there at 9-3. Chance to maybe knock off Texas there and maybe create chaos for the Big 12 championship. And we'll see if Texas probably can get upsetted this weekend. But I did a game preview / game prediction on that game. I just think Texas is desperate to win a Big 12 championship. I just think that's going to be enough to get them the win. But watch out for Oklahoma State to probably pull off an upset. NC State at number 19, I'm fine where they're at. They're kind of similar to Arizona. They definitely deserve to be ranked inside the top 20. I'm not going to really argue with them, not even getting ranked in the top 15 because they do have some, losses on their, record and everything that's not really good. But, NC State has a win over Clemson. That definitely boosts their resume up into at least to the top 20. And then Oregon State here at number 20. They were at number 16 last week. They dropped 4 spots after that loss. I'm kind of, surprised that the committee didn't put them outside the top 20 because that was a pretty bad loss, to a really good top 5 Oregon team. But again, I don't think the committee really penalizes teams for bad losses to some really good teams. So that's the reason why I think Oregon State dropped to number 20, and they only dropped 4 spots. And the same thing with Louisville. They did lose to a pretty average, team in, Kentucky, but maybe Louisville should have been penalized outside the top 15. But again, they also have that win over Notre Dame still, so that's the reason why they still remain in the top 15. The committee has also got Oregon State ranked as the highest ranked 8-4 team. And don't get me wrong, Oregon State has some really good wins on their schedule. They got the win over Utah. They have the win, of course, over other teams in their resume and everything, even though those wins don't really look good now for Oregon State, but they're sitting there at 8-4. So they at least remain here inside the top 20. So these are the rankings here from 16 through 20. Let's now go to the bottom teams here. So Tennessee remains here at number 21. Tulane remains at number 22. I think Clemson was here at number 23 last week. I couldn't really remember. But Liberty at number 24, and then Kansas State rounds it up here at number 25. So Tennessee, like I said, been saying, I don't think this team should definitely be ranked in the top 25, but, I think really the committee is not going to penalize them for those 4 bad losses to some really good teams. They do have really good losses to Alabama, Georgia, and they also have a good loss to Missouri, but their one bad loss comes to Florida, who's a pretty average team, but they didn't make it to a bowl game this year. So that's a bad loss for them. 3 out of the 4 games on their schedule are really good losses though for Tennessee. So I don't really disagree with the committee there. Not penalize them for those losses. Tulane at number 22. They're kind of sitting there in the middle of the pack as well. They're sitting there at 11-1. Obviously the committee I think is getting them some credit though for that loss to Ole Miss back in week number 2, even without their starting quarterback. And then Clemson here at number 23. Like I said last week, I think Clemson definitely should have been ahead of Tennessee because, Clemson has a better resume than Tennessee now, it seems like. Clemson has a win over Notre Dame in the top 25. Clemson does have a good loss to NC State. Their schedule has been pretty tough this year, and they also have a really good loss to Florida State. So I think Clemson maybe definitely deserves to be behind Tennessee, but I just think Clemson is on a red-hot streak. They probably will be that second-best team in the country, that second-best 8-4 team in the country. But again, I just don't really agree with Tennessee being ahead of Clemson. I think Clemson should be at number 21, and then, Tennessee will probably be at number 23, and that would just make it a lot more sense. And then Liberty here at number 24, they're kind of sitting there like Tulane in the middle of the pack. You can't really move them up that high just because of their overall record, because they don't play anybody on their schedule. And then Kansas State did not get penalized here out of the top 25 after losing just by 7 points to a pretty average Iowa State team. They're kind of similar to Louisville. They did drop, outside the top, 20 and everything. I believe they were at like number 19 last week, so I really don't remember, but they don't get penalized even though after losing to a pretty average Iowa State team. I don't think Kansas State should have been penalized. I think, they definitely deserve to still be ranked here in the top 25 because, again, they lost by 7, but, it wasn't really a bad loss. At least they didn't get beat by, maybe by 20-plus points. If they would have gotten beat pretty badly, I think they would have probably, dropped out of the top 25 and maybe would have gotten a new team here in the top 25. But so Kansas State remains here at number 25. They also remain here in the college football playoff rankings, even though they only lost by 7 to a pretty average Iowa State team. So I don't really disagree with the committee there, but these are the 2023 top 25 college football playoff rankings heading into conference championship weekend, also known as week number 14 of the college football season. Again, this is my reaction here to these playoff rankings from yesterday. And again, there are some areas where I do disagree with. Again, I don't really agree with Oregon being ahead of Ohio State. I don't agree with Louisville being behind LSU, but I think both of those teams are pretty even. And I just think, I don't think there's any big disagreements here. Maybe like I said, except for maybe Ohio State being behind Oregon and everything. So that's a big disagreement there. But anyways, it is what it is. But we're heading into conference championship weekend. A lot of chaos could probably happen this weekend once we get into those final playoff rankings on Selection Sunday. So we'll see what happens. But these are the final weekday, rankings on a weeknight. Heading into week number 14 of the college football season of 2023. What did you guys think last night about these rankings? Let me know down your thoughts in the comments below. Thank you for watching this reaction video, and thank you for watching this video, and stay tuned here for more sports content videos on my Lucas Ross Sports channel.